Hi everyone, welcome. It's Kelly here from Kelly's Astrology. It is so great to see you. We are just getting started here, so hopefully you're able to see and hear me. If you are jumping in to listen, let me know where you are joining me from. It's a very spur of the moment Q and A here. I've got a couple of insights to share about the Astrology of November and a special bundle offer that expires on Monday, November 6th. So I want to tell you all about that as well. So if you are watching, let me know where you are joining live from. So it's the start of November. There are lots of astrological themes coming through this month, and I want to share a little bit about just two of them today. First up, we're going to have a series of square aspects to the planet Saturn in Pisces, which is really going to influence the astrology and the energy of November. So I want to give you a few key pointers about how to navigate those dates. We've also got a very chaotic, unpredictable few days towards the middle of November where we start to get this series of opposition aspects to the planet Uranus. And I want to give you a heads up about some of those as well. So that's what I'm going to share a little bit about today. So if you are joining me live for this very spontaneous Q&A, let me know where you are joining me from. I can see Susie is here from Colorado Springs in the US. Welcome. Yo Woo is joining us from Arkansas. Welcome. Shaimade is here from Norway. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's great to see you all here. So just before I dive in, I'm going to talk about those series of square aspects for November and those opposition aspects to Uranus. But I also want to make sure that you know about my special bundle offer, which is available just until November 6th. So if you are wanting to learn astrology, but you're struggling with finding the time, maybe you are feeling a bit confused or overwhelmed as to where to begin in your journey of learning more astrology, I want to let you know about my astrology training program where you can be guided through step by step the best material to learn and in what order. There is flexibility with your learning inside the astrology program. There is the ability to ask questions either in one of our live Q&As or in our regularly monitored discussion forums. You'll be studying with a group. We have a whole cohort of students that is studying astrology this November, and you'll be able to benefit from learning in community as well. I've been helping students learn astrology for more than 20 years, and I know the best ways to guide you through this very exciting world of astrology. But I also know the places where students get overwhelmed, and I'm going to be able to help you through those points. I offer a supported and structured astrology program, so you don't have to worry about, am I learning the right thing? Should I be learning this or that? I'm going to guide you through each topic step by step in the best order to help you build a really solid foundation in astrology. Through my astrology training program, you'll learn how to interpret a birth chart. You'll learn how to make forecasts and predictions about what might be coming up for a person. You're going to learn skills that will help you understand yourself, help you understand your loved ones, and also skills that will allow you to create your own astrology practice if that's something that you want to do. There are weekly homework activities, a private student discussion forum, and live Q&As every 2 weeks where we will get to interact directly. You can view each class on your own schedule, giving you great flexibility. And then we'll connect every 2 weeks to make sure that you're on track with your learning. So if this sounds like a program that is going to help you deepen your understanding of astrology, if it's going to help you add magic and meaning to your life, then I hope to see you in class. We start next week, November 6th. I have a special bundle offer that saves more than 10% off the regular tuition rate, and that is only available until November 6th. So if you're interested in that, pop over to my website, kellysastrology.com. There's a big, image right there on the homepage. You'll be able to click right through. You can see the entire schedule for the next 2 years. So all the classes are laid out so you'll be able to plan and organize your time. and let's go on this journey together. Astrology is absolutely life-changing in all the best ways. I know that personally. I've been so blessed to have astrology in my life for, oh my God, I'm almost scared to admit it, nearly 30 years now. And I would love to share everything I can with you over the next couple of years. So if you'd like to dive in and explore astrology together, class starts on Monday. Pop over to kellysastrology.com, sign up, and I will see you soon. Okay, team. So thank you so much for joining me here today. Let's dive into some of those astrological signatures for the month of November. If you are listening, let me know where you're joining me from. I can see Fly is here from Istanbul. Lotta is here from the Netherlands. Judith is here from Indiana. Welcome. Marilyn is here from Washington. So great to see so many of you here. So, two big astrological themes for the month of November that I want to share with you. First up, squares to Saturn. So what we see in November astrologically is we've got a number of planets moving into Sagittarius, and they're going to then square off to Saturn at the very start of Pisces. So we're going to get 3 squares this month. We've got Mercury square Saturn around November 10th. Then we have the Sun square Saturn around November 23rd. And finally, Mars square Saturn around November 25th. So each of these aspects does have some unique qualities. You know, Mercury Saturn's a little bit more about pressures or tests to do with logistics or travel or planning, whereas Mars Saturn can be about energy and feeling low energy or feeling time pressured. So there are some specific themes. Sun Saturn can be about redefining your identity. Who am I and how am I letting my core self out into the world? Have I outgrown some of the things in my life, some of the responsibilities or duties? I can see my camera's just going a bit blurry, so I'm just going to take a second and fix that. Sometimes when I move too much, it gets a little bit blurry. I get a bit enthusiastic, as many of you will know. So each of these squares to Saturn, we've got Mercury Saturn at the start of November, and then Sun Saturn and Mars Saturn in that last week of November. They've each got some specific signatures, but they're all squares to Saturn. So there are common elements as well. Squares to Saturn mean adjustments. They can mean making necessary, but sometimes tough choices. You know, it's not always 2 great options. Sometimes it's like neither of these scenarios is perfect, but we've got to go with one of them, particularly around that Mercury square Saturn aspect. We won't necessarily love the options in front of us. The Mars square Saturn aspect, November 25th, that is one of the more classically challenging aspect combinations, at least according to the style of ancient astrology that I practice. And that can really bring frustrations to the surface. So I'm going to say a little bit more about that Mars square Saturn just because it's classically a little bit more challenging. But I just want you to know that around November 10th, the 23rd, and the 25th, you might feel like you're in a tight spot. You're at a deadline crunch. Maybe you've overextended and now you're going to have to restructure or apologize and withdraw. Whenever we've got squares to Saturn active, we're also having to update our limits. You know, we get a reality check from Saturn. This is what's possible, and that's not possible. There's not enough time. There's not enough hours. There's not enough interest, you know? And so being really honest, first and foremost with yourself about who and what you want to be committed to, who and what you're willing to be tied down to is going to be really important throughout November. So Mars square Saturn, this is an aspect about adjustments, but particularly adjusting timelines. You know, Mars is like immediate, do it now. Saturn is like plan for the long term. What is your future older self going to want from you? So with Mars square Saturn, it's not about doing what you want right away. It's about doing what's most important and what's going to benefit you most a decade from now or 2 decades from now. So Mars square Saturn can be things like, I'm going to make, a salad for lunch instead of grabbing takeout because that food is more nutritious and I'm going to feel better 3 days from now because I've eaten something healthier. Mars square Saturn can be, I really want to go out with friends and have this lovely dinner, but I'm going to save that money because I want to pay off something, or because I want to put some money into my retirement savings account, just to give a couple of really basic examples. So Mars square Saturn sometimes can be summarized as short-term pain for long-term gain. What are you prepared to do without now? Because that will make a benefit for you in the future. It will give you more stability or more security or more protection in the future. So Mars square Saturn is like a little bit of self-regulation around what that sort of 2-year-old toddler inside you is like stamping their feet. I want this now. And then the Saturn part is, but it will be better if we do this, because in the future, that's going to be, the consequence or the outcome is more productive. So that's Mars square Saturn. A few points. I could go on about any square to Saturn for days, but just to give you the highlighted themes. So they are this sequence of squares to Saturn that is a unique feature of the astrology of November of 2023, I should say. We don't always have Saturn in Pisces. We will have a similar theme next year when planets come in to Sag and square Saturn, but we won't have Mars as part of the mix. Remember, Mars is only in each zodiac sign every 2 years. So that's part of what makes these squares to Saturn a little more intense, feel a little bit more pressured, and a little bit more like the effort of making those necessary, sometimes uncomfortable choices. So hopefully that's not too melancholy for you all, but it is an important part of the astrology of November. If you're catching me live here, let me know where you're joining me from. If you've got any questions, let me know in the chat. There is one other astrological signature for November that I want to share, and then I will take a couple of questions. I also want to make sure you know about the special one-time bundle offer for my astrology training program. It expires on November 6th. So if you want to add more magic and meaning to your life, if you would like some guidance and support, a detailed 11-course astrology training program that will set you up for the next 2 years. We start on Monday. Pop over to my website, kellysastrology.com. You can find out all the details about how to save more than 10% on the course fee. And I look forward to seeing you in class soon if you decide to go in that direction. So Katie is joining us here from Dallas, Texas. Layla is from New Mexico in the US. Cosmostrology is saying, first time catching you live. Hi, welcome. Thanks so much for being here. Cherokee Case is joining us from Albany. Welcome. Three Treasures. Is Jamaja. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, from Manhattan. Welcome. Jamaja has just signed up for the training program, so it is great to see you here. El Faye is here from Phoenix. Great to see you as well. So happy to spend a little bit of time with you all this first weekend in November. So the second astrological signature that I want to share about for November is what I'm sort of thinking about as the roller coaster ride of Uranus. And this is a sequence of opposition aspects to Uranus that really is in play from November 11 to November 14. And in those few days, we have Mars in Scorpio opposing Uranus. We have the Sun in Scorpio opposing Uranus. And we're also going to have a new moon in Scorpio that is opposite Uranus. And so this combination of Mars, Uranus, new moon energy, Sun, Uranus energy from November 11 to November 14. This is a very unpredictable time in November. There are themes of things being volatile and unpredictable, unexpected developments, surprises, maybe even a shocking twist or turn as well. So these are really strong signatures. They are going to shake things up. We're going to have to innovate. We're going to have to be spontaneous. We're going to have to think about doing things differently. So even though it's only a few days, it's a very strong set of signatures, keeping in mind that we only get a Mars-Uranus opposition once every 2 years. We do get a Sun-Uranus opposition once a year, once every 12 months, I should say. But to have the Mars-Uranus opposition and the Sun-Uranus opposition happening at the same time, it does add a level of intensity and kind of chaotic volatility to that few-day period around the middle of November. So, if it's in your personal chart, if you've got planets around 21 degrees of any of the fixed signs, Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius, then you personally are going to be shaking things up in your life. You're going to be wanting more freedom, more autonomy. You're going to want to be more authentic. We really can't handle rules and restrictions. We go into that rebellious space when we've got these dramatic oppositions to Uranus. And for some of us, it's going to mean, a weekend that might be unexpected in where it goes, or sudden changes of plans. And so you might need to be a little bit flexible, a little bit spontaneous. You might need to be open to doing things differently. So that is sort of this hot Uranus-Mars period in the middle part of November. So that is, there are a couple of the big signatures for November. So I wanted to share some of that info with you. Let me know how you're experiencing those energies as the month unfolds. You can let me know in the comments below. I know we're on live right now, but if you're watching this after the live, keep us posted as to how this unfolds for you. So I'm going to jump into the chat and take a couple of questions now. And as I do, I just want to make sure you know that my special bundle offer for my full astrology training program is available right now until November 6th. You can sign up and save more than 10% off your tuition. Pop over to kellysastrology.com to find out more. Okay, so great questions coming through here. Let's see. So Shaimade is saying that Saturn's stationed retrograde in exact square to my Sag moon in June. So that means that your moon is at 7 Sag, because that's where Saturn's stationed. And it wasn't that difficult, but it felt a bit heavy. That's really common. When Saturn squares the moon, we do get that feeling of like weighty, heavy. Sometimes we've got some worry or fear that we're working through. Sometimes we have a really practical situation, which just kind of sits heavy on us. So let's get to your question. I can see more questions coming in, so I just had to scroll back. Curious how Saturn's return to that degree will be. A lot has happened since then. Okay, so for any of you who have planets at 7 degrees of a mutable sign, 7 degrees of Gemini or Sag or Virgo or Pisces, Saturn was there at in June of 2023, and Saturn will come back to 7 Pisces in February of 2024. It's funny you ask about this, because I was talking about this with a couple of clients this week. So the way I'm thinking about this is the first activation, so June of 23, is a little bit of the wake-up call, the reality check, the realization about the way things are, maybe what isn't working. There is a real clarity that Saturn gives us via transit. And what you've been working on since then is how to do some of that restructuring and reorganizing so that you can be more effective, maybe even more impactful, but with better boundaries, better focus. So there's like an improved efficiency, if you like. So when Saturn comes back to aspect your moon in February, it may be that you're reinforcing the themes you've been working on, or it might be that you feel like you've come to a completion stage of, this has been a big thing I've worked on, June 23 to February 2024. I've got the new habits now. The new fences, the new boundaries are up, and I feel more comfortable working with them. It won't necessarily be bad. I think one of the misunderstandings of Saturn transits is that it always immediately means bad things. But there is a productive quality of Saturn, because Saturn, particularly these Saturn transits in Pisces, a sign ruled by Jupiter, there is some wisdom that Saturn is trying to impart upon you. And if you're open to receiving that wisdom, it may be, experience from the past. It might be a practical thing that needs to be changed or updated. If you're open to that, this can actually be really constructive transits. So that's some of my thoughts there. Hopefully you've been managing, mood, emotion, fear, and worry. That can be some Saturn moon stuff that comes up. Think like it can be fear or worry about the long term, or fear or worry about security or protection. And the moon is also a planet to do with our body, so our health, and also food and nourishment. So sometimes, particularly when Saturn squares the moon, we are learning about what we need to do to improve our well-being. And with Saturn, there's often some restraint or restriction required. Like, I personally have planets in this 7-degree of mutable zone, and I've had to realize I just can't eat as much sugar or sweet stuff as I used to. So I've had to cut that back, and I feel amazing from doing it. I just miss my chocolate brownies, for instance. But I've also had, so there's that Saturn moon thing is like restraint or willingly embracing a limit for your benefit of some kind. That's a really great question. Hopefully that's helpful. Let us know if you need me to say more on that. Let's have a little sip of water. Susie is commenting on the Taurus Scorpio oppositions I was just talking about as a signature for November. And Susie's saying, I'm a Gemini rising, which means she has Taurus on her 6th house and Taurus on her 12th house and Scorpio on her 6th house. And she's saying, I can speak for most Geminis that we are over the 12th house, 6th house oppositions. I bet you are. And look, once we move out of Scorpio season towards the end of the month, once Mars moves out of Scorpio, that intensity is definitely going to dive down. Okay, oh my gosh, there's so many great questions. Let's see if I can find a couple. S Yoga is joining us from Vancouver Island. Hi, welcome. It's such a beautiful, beautiful place. Shamaid saying, thank you. That's really helpful. For any of you who are really curious about some of the Saturn in Pisces transits, I do have a video on my YouTube about Saturn transits to the moon, which does go into that a lot. Obviously, that won't help with everybody's Saturn in Pisces transit, but it will give you some guidance. And separate to the free resources on my YouTube, I do have an astrology webinar class on Saturn transits to the planets. So if Saturn is going to be aspecting your Mercury or Jupiter or Mars or the Sun or Venus, I've got a detailed training class that goes into some of the keywords and concepts, like how to interpret the transit. And so I will put a link for that in the notes below once the live finishes for today. So hopefully that will be helpful, because I can see lots of questions on Saturn and Saturn transits, and like I'm a mutable heavy chart, so I'm totally in the thick of it with many of you. So maybe I could say something about Saturn stationing direct, because Saturn is going to station direct. That's another one of November's signatures. November 4th, actually, later today, Saturn will station direct at 0 Pisces, and is then between now, November of 23 and June of 24, Saturn is going to move from 0 Pisces to 18 Pisces. Saturn is now going to cover more than half of the zodiac sign of Pisces. So if you didn't get into the Saturn transits earlier, as soon as Saturn came into Pisces, you're probably going to dive into it over this next kind of 8 or 9 month period as Saturn goes through the entire first half of Pisces. So Saturn stationing direct is like we've come to the end of the first act of Saturn in Pisces, and we're getting ready to start implementing the shifts, the restructuring. So if you have 0 to 7 degrees of a mutable sign important in your chart, maybe you have a planet at 4 Gemini, or your midheaven is at 6 Sag, or you have a planet at 3 Virgo. Any planets or angles in that 0 to 7 degree of any of the mutable signs, you have already done a lot of preparation and research. That's what you've been doing since March. And now with Saturn stationing direct, you are ready to implement, you're ready to upgrade, you're ready to kind of put that new structure in place. So we are starting to move forward with some of our Saturn tasks. And Saturn in Pisces is about soulful structure. It's about how can I create a rhythm, a feel or a flow to my life that is grounding, but it's grounding and allows me to meet my practical obligations, but also makes space for my soul. It gives me some time or some energy to nourish that kind of spiritual self, because that's really important with Saturn in Pisces. Okay, so there is another question here about Pluto. So let's talk about this. Can you explain Pluto crossing 29 degrees Capricorn ascendant will be will end the current maximum pressure once enters Aquarius. So let's talk about this. If you have your ascendant at 29 Capricorn, if you have a planet or an angle in your chart at 29 degrees of any of the cardinal signs, 29 Cancer, 29 Libra, 29 Aries, or 29 Capricorn, you're definitely in an intense place at the moment as Pluto is coming back to 29. The peak of Pluto at 29, I always like to look at the exact activations. So we had June, July of 2023. We would have had a period before then as well. February, March 2023, June, July 2023, and then we're looking at late December and January 2024. Pluto does come back to 29 Capricorn in September and October and the first part of November 2024. So if you do have a planet at 29 cardinal, you're about 2/3 of the way through that Pluto transit. You get a big break in 2024, but in the latter part of 2024, Pluto does come back to 29 degrees September, October, and November. That will be the very end there. So a Pluto transit is intense. It can sometimes feel confronting, it can feel uncomfortable, and it is drawing you closer to power. If Pluto specifically is on your ascendant, there are major changes at all levels of you. There are physical changes and health changes that can be going on. There are emotional and psychological changes. There are deep questions that you are asking of yourself and reflecting on for yourself. And you're starting to ask deeper questions of the people around you. Sometimes when Pluto transits our ascendant, we get a little suspicious about what people's real motivations are. But if we also use that as a chance to reflect on our real motivations, this can be a hugely transformational time. And ultimately, Pluto transiting your ascendant, it's a rare transit. It will not happen for everybody in this lifetime, but it is telling us that it is out with the old and in with the new. Your identity, your personality, your sense of yourself, you're getting to know yourself at a much deeper level than you ever have. And like the snake, you'll be shedding a variety of different skins. You'll be shedding habits and attitudes. You will be shaking up responsibilities and the things you're interested in, because a lot of what's in your life right now is tied to the person that you were in the past. And this act of becoming this kind of new emerging you is going to require a little bit of space so that you're not tied down by the same things. So that's a little bit part of a Pluto on the ascendant transit. So hopefully that has been helpful for you. There are so many great questions. I'm going to have to set up a Q&A sort of submission option, because I'd love to answer some of these questions in my podcast as well. We're almost out of time today. But let's see. Amelia is asking, are there any transits you're especially looking forward to in November? Yes. I do have a podcast episode on this, which is available right now, Kelly's Astrology Podcast. It's on my YouTube channel. You can also get it on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, etc. The best astrological shift in November is Venus coming into Libra. That starts November 8th. It's not a perfect Venus in Libra, but it's the best Venus we've had for months, and it's going to be the best Venus we've got until January. And Venus in Libra is, of course, about negotiation, diplomacy. It's definitely less about tension and aggression and more about finding points of agreement, collaboration, and consensus. So I am very much looking forward to Venus coming into Libra. But if you do want to hear me say more on that, go and check out the podcast episode. I think it's titled Morning Star Venus in Libra. It's on the YouTube channel now, or you can listen to it over on Spotify as well. Great question. Thank you so much for everybody joining me here today. And if you are wanting to add more magic and meaning to your life, if you want to build a great foundation in your understanding of astrology, maybe you're self-taught and you want to fill in any gaps that you have in your learning, I am bringing a new cohort into my astrology training program starting next week, November 6th. And to celebrate, there is a special bundle offer available just until November 6th. Pop over to my website, kellysastrology.com, where you can find out more or sign up if learning astrology now is right for you. Either way, team, I look forward to seeing you again real soon, either here on YouTube or in class next week. Take care, everyone, and enjoy the month of November.